anti-government groups joined the protests, which ended without any serious incidents. Democrats have pointed to polling showing a majority of Virginians support their proposals, including universal background checks and an assault weapons ban. For NPR News, I'm Ben Paviour in Richmond.
President Trump's defense team today filed a legal brief laying out its defense against an impeachment conviction. NPR's Tamara Keith.
The brief uses both legalese and Trumpian flourishes, calling the process rigged and a, quote, brazenly political act by House Democrats that must be rejected. He goes on to say Democrats, through this process, debase the grave power of impeachment. As for the actual legal defense, the brief argues Trump didn't do anything wrong when he asked Ukraine's President Zelensky to investigate Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter. But they also argue abuse of power isn't a crime anyway. They say it is too vague a standard and doesn't rise to a high crime or misdemeanor as spelled out in the Constitution. Democrats in their own brief say a president's abuse of his office is very much what the framers had in mind. Tamara Keith, NPR News, the White House.
The president will not be in Washington when the Senate impeachment trial begins tomorrow. He leaves this evening for the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. The European Union is working on the next steps after world leaders agreed yesterday to push for an end to the conflict in Libya. As Terry Schultz reports from Brussels, the EU is now planning to resume a naval mission off Libya's coast that could spark renewed opposition by anti-migration activists.
Operation Sophia launched in 2015 with the purpose of saving lives, deterring migrant boats from crossing the Mediterranean, and intercepting smugglers and weapons. It was suspended last year because its main task became picking up stranded migrants, angering Italy, which is where many of them were taken. Now Italy says it will support resuming Sophia for the sole purpose of keeping weapons from getting into Libya. However, under international law, any ships that come across people in danger of drowning have to rescue them.
Terry Schultz reporting from Brussels. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave Heller, WHYY News. It's 4:04. A new youth center coming soon to Northeast Wilmington will feature a mural depicting Martin Luther King Jr. Dozens of students spent their morning today painting it. Tales from WHYY's Mark Eichmann.
The warehouse is expected to open as early as next month and offer young people in the community a place to have fun, to learn, and to express themselves through art. The center will also offer career supports like resume help and training on interview skills. Artist Jenna Williams sketched out the main work on the new MLK mural to honor the mission of the warehouse and the message.
I think it's all about making a change, but doing it peacefully, and he just wanted people to come together. Some of us we did today. Everybody came together, and we were very peaceful, very calm, soothing, and everybody got each other.
After painting the mural, students took part in a peace march, followed by a discussion of King's legacy with local leaders. From the Delaware desk, Mark Eichmann, WHYY News.
Spotted liver flies costing Pennsylvania around $50 million a year, and that's just within the quarantine zone in southeastern Pennsylvania. Figures come from a new study from the State University. The invasive insect is especially damaging to high-value crops like Christmas trees, grapes, and tree nurseries. Jason Harper is an agricultural economist at Penn State and a co-author of the study.
We're the ground zero for spotted lanternfly.
The lanternfly has already migrated on to New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland. Harper says it's important to ensure it doesn't go any further. The study estimates that the timber industry would have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars across Pennsylvania to manage the pest and keep it from spreading. Evening forecast clear and cold, 17 degrees. Sunny tomorrow, Tuesday's high 35 to 40 degrees Wednesday under sunshine, and Thursday sunny, high in the mid-40s. It's 4:06. This is WHYY.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Alfred Stone Foundation, bridging science and the arts by supporting documentaries such as The Poison Squad, about the history behind food safety standards, airing on PBS January 28th. More at sloan.org.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Elsa Chang. Gun rights advocates are heading home after today's massive pro-gun rally in Richmond, Virginia.
I have one simple message. No one should ever again vote for the party of gun control. Never.
That is Jeff Katz, a Richmond radio host, speaking at the rally. Virginia's governor had declared a state of emergency and banned weapons, including guns, on the State House grounds. But the day passed calmly. NPR's Sarah McCammon spent the day there and has this report.
Pam Liner was up before dawn this morning, standing outside the Virginia State Capitol grounds in frigid January temperatures to be among the first in line for today's gun rights rally.
I'm here to support Virginians. I was born in Virginia. I haven't lived here in 40 years.
Liner says she left her home near Valdosta, Georgia on Saturday to come here because she's worried that what's happening in Virginia could spread nationwide.
I'm here to support Virginia because whatever way Virginia goes, wherever Democrats are in control, it's going to go the same way everywhere else.
Liner says she's concerned about a slate of proposed restrictions Virginia lawmakers are considering. They include universal background checks, bans on high-capacity magazines, and so-called red flag laws that would allow authorities to temporarily take guns from people deemed to pose a danger to themselves or others. Democratic Governor Ralph Northam called a special session on guns last year in response to the mass shooting that killed a dozen victims in Virginia Beach, but Republican leaders quickly ended the session. Now, with Democrats newly in control of the legislature, several of those bills appear poised to become law. And gun rights activists are pushing back.
Governor Northam and this Democrat legislature are not interested in hearing what we have to say on the subject of the Second Amendment and their overreach.
That's Scott Jenkins, the sheriff in Culpeper County, Virginia, one of dozens of municipalities in the Commonwealth that have declared themselves sanctuaries for gun rights in response to the Democratic proposals. Jenkins says, as sheriff, he will not enforce any new gun laws he considers unconstitutional and will do what he can to get around them.
I will choose to deputize thousands of my citizens to see that they're able to keep their lawfully owned firearms and not be disarmed. We have many good men and women serving as sheriffs and Commonwealth's attorney who have strong feelings just like myself and have their own ideas of how they should step forward and protect your rights. I ask that you all return to your homes and ask your elected officials exactly where is the line that they will not cross.
Other speakers suggested there may be other means of pushing back against gun restrictions.
Let's have a round of applause for Stephen Williford.
Stephen Williford is the kind of good guy with a gun that advocates often point to as a solution to gun violence. In 2017, he used a semi-automatic rifle to stop a mass shooter at his church in Sutherland Springs, Texas.
Now all of America's eyes are on you, Virginia, wondering whether you will let your rights be encroached upon.
Williford told the crowd about armed American colonists pushing back against British troops and said he hopes modern-day America is a long way from that kind of revolutionary violence. But standing in front of the Virginia State House, Williford issued this warning.
We are here coming in peace. We are not the aggressors. But we will not comply with bans, registration, or confiscation. We will not comply.
Despite reports of extremist groups converging on the event, there was no serious violence in Virginia's capital, at least none today. Sarah McCammon, NPR News, Richmond.
Another caravan of migrants, this time about 2,000, have spent the last week traveling from Honduras through Guatemala to get to the Mexican border. The migrants are fleeing poverty and violence, and many hope to eventually reach the U.S. The Trump administration has put a lot of pressure on the Mexican government to curb the flow of migrants traveling north. James Frederick has been reporting on the situation, and he joins us now from the Guatemala-Mexico border. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, what are you seeing at the border right now?
Well, here's basically what happened today. The migrant caravan went to the bridge that connects Mexico and Guatemala, and they went and they asked the Mexican government, please let us in, please let us, come and march through Mexico. And the government said no. So after that, the caravan eventually came down from that bridge and decided to walk across the river that divides these two countries. And the water level was pretty low, so it was easy for them to just walk across. But when they got across, they were met by hundreds of National Guard members who were waiting for them on the other side. I was there, and this is what it sounded like. And so right now what we have is a standoff at a river. There are hundreds, maybe more than 1,000 migrants here on the Mexican bank of this river, and a very long line of Mexican National Guard members not letting them any further.
Now, should these migrants get let into Mexico, they're going to have to travel all the way through Mexico to get to the U.S. border. Do you get the sense that any of them wouldn't mind staying in Mexico?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's one thing that that seems different this time that I'm talking to migrants, is there seem to be a lot more people who are more open to the idea of staying in Mexico, trying to find a place to live and work here. There still are many who say that the United States is their destination, but compared to other migrant caravans I've been with, there are a lot more people who are saying, I'll stay in Mexico. They just can't get into Mexico right now.
And what are the Mexican authorities saying about the possibility of all these migrants staying in Mexico?
The Mexican government has been very clear since news broke about this migrant caravan. They said a caravan is not going to come into the country. What they've been telling migrants is, if you come with us, you can see what options there are for you to get some kind of legal status in Mexico, but for most people that results in deportation. The migrants here don't really trust Mexican authorities, and they don't want to go with them. So, I mean, we really are stuck at a standoff right now.
There have been a number of caravans. I mean, I'm just curious, these waves of migrants that keep coming up north, why do they want to travel in such a large number in a caravan and not just with one or two other families at a time?
It's mostly two factors. First is safety, that the migrant trail is very dangerous. Cartels and other gangs prey on migrants on that trail. There's lots of kidnappings and robberies. And then the other thing is visibility. They really do want to be seen. They want people to know that they are fleeing poverty and violence, and that the situation in the Central American countries they come from is unlivable.
That is reporter James Frederick on the Mexico-Guatemala border. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Kansas City Chiefs are headed to the Super Bowl for the first time in half a century. Despite the drought, it is a bit of a homecoming. The Chiefs played in the first ever Super Bowl, and the team's original owner was instrumental in forming the modern NFL and its championship game. Frank Morris of member station KCUR reports.
At Johnny's on 7th in Kansas City, Kansas, the diverse working-class counterpart to the larger Kansas City on the Missouri side, Simon Fruga is moved almost to tears watching his hometown team win a place in the Super Bowl.
That Super Bowl is coming home, baby. It's coming home.
Magda, she's not really that into football, or wasn't before the Chiefs started winning. But sporting her new Chiefs jersey, Wagner says she loves what the team is doing for the city.
It brings the whole city together, Kansas City together as a city. That's what I like about the Chiefs football. It's just feel like a family. We're all united.
Of course, it's hard to quantify the benefits of a winning sports franchise, but Corinne Foreman says successful baseball and soccer teams have energized Kansas City before.
The city came to life. People moved here. And people loved each other, and the city was happy. And I think this is going to be amazing for Kansas City. I think this is the next big boom.
Kansas City has a long history with the Super Bowl. The Chiefs were originally part of the upstart American Football League, a rival to the older established National Football League. In the mid-1960s, owners hatched the idea of a game between the champions of the rival leagues. The owner of the Chiefs then, Lamar Hunt, came up with the name Super Bowl, based on a remarkable new toy ball his kids were playing with. Here's Hunt in a video produced by Royal House Studios.
And it was very much like a golf ball, except it was rubber, and you could bounce it on concrete, and it would bounce over a house, and it was called the Super Ball.
The Chiefs played in the very first Super Bowl, and after the owners consolidated the two leagues into the NFL, the game became a match between the winners of the two conferences.